Well, hello once again, live at lunch with Mo Hagan here at canfitpro in Toronto. And with me today, an incredible friend, a new friend, but an incredible friend, Dr. Rumeet Billan. Welcome to canfitpro.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm just admiring this beautiful wall back here. Can you tell me about it?
Well, you know what? Perfect segment to start with when we
Awesome.
talk about all of you and what you do. So this is called the canfitpro Why Wall.
Okay.
And, we know that it's so important that no matter what you do in both your professional life and your personal life, you got to understand where everything starts with your why.
Yes.
So one year we did this project at canfitpro, our conference a couple years ago, and we put the board up with one sticky note in the middle. What is your why? And we left a whole bunch of markers, whole bunch of sticky notes, and this is what came from it.
It's beautiful.
And we loved it.
Absolutely beautiful.
So it's our backdrop for our live at lunch.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for joining in today.
So you might recognize Rumeet. She is a very, very popular celebrity, in fact, here in Toronto and also around Canada and throughout the world. You're seen on TV quite a bit.
Thank you.
I have a great quick story I want to share with you. As a fitness professional, it's always seeking to find the latest and greatest. I connect with people. And one morning, my husband called me out of bed and said, you got to come into the bathroom where my TV is. So you got to check out this woman who's speaking on this thing called the tall poppy syndrome. And so I'd love to, first of all, introduce you properly. And then I'd love you to share with our viewers what your work has been around that's connected us in the beginning. As Rumeet found out, I run an event called Women Who Influence. And when I heard your work with the tall poppy syndrome, I reached out to you. And that created what we have now, which is a really great friendship. And I have some news to tell you about where that friendship is going to go in 2020.
So basically, she can't get rid of me now.
I know, really. It's amazing. Yeah, we've purposely decided to meet up with each other even on Saturdays so we can connect and get to know each other better. So I'd love to start off by sharing your short bio, and that doesn't do you justice, but I'm going to start there, and I'd love you to fill in some gaps around the work that you do.
Sure.
Because it's so innovative, and that's really who you are. So Dr. Rumeet Billan is an award-winning, internationally recognized entrepreneur, a learning architect, and humanitarian. Rumeet delivers talks and workshops on psychological capital, which I really love that whole concept. I want to ask you about that. And you also provide a platform that encourages others to envision what could be possible. I want to also let you know that you have a mission to raise potential by designing experiences that build resilience, which is the new muscle. And we're going to talk about a workshop around that coming up next Thursday with Rumeet. You are the president CEO of Viewpoint Leadership. And you are an expert on psychological capital and many other things. So Rumeet, tell us, how did you get into this area of work? And how did that start? What areas what's your area of work right now? I know you work with the young right through to the senior executives of companies. And I'd love you to share with our members a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. And everyone in between.
Everyone
in between. And I love what I do. And I know it's no secret that I love what I do. I am in the training and development space. And so I run two businesses, both in the education learning space. And it was this idea of the gift of education. And so being in training and development is that we are giving the gift of education. And if we look at even canfitpro, you're giving the gift of life, the gift of health, right?
Yeah.
The gift of education. And that is so, so important to me. So that's why I'm obsessed with this wall right now, because getting to that why piece is so important. And so I learned my why very, very early on. And I decided that I wanted to be able to not only create experiences that build resilience, but experiences that are able to change perspectives. So for example, the tall poppy study, that's how we connected. I led a research study last year on tall poppy syndrome. And so what tall poppy syndrome is it looks at when women rise, like how poppies grow tall, that they get actually cut down by size or cut down to size by their peers, their colleagues, their superiors. And so Mo, as you know, what I wanted to find out is this happening in Canada? Where is it happening? How is it happening? Who is it happening to? And then how do we solve for this? How do we build that resilience so that people can bounce back from those challenges that they face? And what we learned was 87.3% of Canadian women had experienced tall poppy syndrome. 87.3. And it had a great impact on them as individuals. So negative self-talk, self-esteem, self-confidence. It had an impact on workplaces. And so organizations saw 50% of these high-achieving women leave their organizations. So they're harder to replace.
Holy, that's more scary.
And they're more expensive to replace. But here's the thing, guess who's staying? The cutters.
Oh,
right? So
gosh, that just gives me chills to think about that.
We don't really want the cutters in our organizations, but those are the ones that are staying. And also 70% of women indicated that it impacted their productivity. So organizations, they're not getting the best out of their employees, and women, it's impacting how they feel about themselves, making it harder for them to be resilient and bounce back. And so a part of my work is that training workshop space, but the other part is research. Let's see what's going on out there. And it's not enough just to talk about it. Let's talk about tools and interventions and strategies. Mo, you've sat in on a couple of my sessions. We talk about strategy. What can you implement today?
That's right.
To help build your resilience?
And surprisingly, very practical and things that everybody can do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and you do such a good job of making it very personal.
Thank you.
And you also do a fantastic job of getting us out of our comfort zone and, you know, sharing with others what that action will be that we'll take and put into our day right away.
Exactly.
And that's how we can actually move forward. So really, really important. And your work is, that's what I love about your gift of education, is that you make it very friendly to everyone and you make it at a level that people can relate to.
And it has to be safe.
And
right?
that's key. You set that up so well. And that's probably a lesson in being an educator, is how do you create that safe environment for learning and sharing, or for learning.
Exactly. And so I always say I'm not a teacher, I'm a facilitator. And my job is to facilitate an environment where we can learn. And it's also to make it interactive and also to look at research. I did my PhD at the University of Toronto and I learned those research skills. Research and data is important, right? We can talk about different things and the reason why they're important, but let's see what's actually happening within our organizations. Let's see what's happening within our community, within our country, and then build off of that. And so that research element is so, so important to what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I have to ask, because in the fitness industry, the primary member is female. And interesting enough, the owners and operators of the majority of clubs in the mid-size design, the boutiques are a little bit different. They're pretty much run by women, but most of them are men-led or owned, but the operators are women. And so speaking to women, which we do, when you speak about the cutters and you say 87.3% of women experience the tall poppy syndrome, who are the ones that are cutting them down?
Excellent question. So there is this myth out there that women cut women down. And truthfully, when I went into the study, I thought that as well.
Okay.
And our study dispelled that myth. So what our study said is it's actually both. Both men and women are cutting down women. Where it differs is their position title. So it's men in senior level roles, C-suite, CEO, that are cutting down women. And it's women in peer colleague or direct report roles that are cutting down women. I am not sure if we take it more personally when another woman cuts us down versus when a man cuts us down.
Interesting.
And so I don't know why we go into this thinking, oh, it's women that bring each other down. It's true, but it's also men. We're all doing it to
it's how we receive it as well, like you said.
Exactly.
We think about, well, it's the one, you know, the pure female that cuts us down, but we actually somehow take it on differently with a fellow female than we do a male, perhaps.
Yes, and I want to say
I've personally experienced that. Now I can admit that, that I can be criticized by a male and take it totally differently than if I experience it from a female.
Yeah, we take it personally.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's very interesting.
I had someone say to me when the study came out, well, why do women need to be validated? And I said, they don't need to be validated. They just don't need to be cut down, right? It's not the validation. It's the being attacked, being ostracized, being resented. That's not what they need. And we know anecdotally it happens to men too. So it's not just specific to women. Our study focused on women, but anecdotally we know it happens to men too, just differently, by different people and in different ways.
Wow.
right?
Very
And
interesting.
so the idea is, well, how do we build? How do we come back from that? Because we're basing lower self-confidence, lower self-esteem based on the opinions of someone else, right? And so the work that I do is it looks at how do we build our self-confidence? What are the tools, the strategies that we implement today? How do we look at possibilities in a different lens so that we can reframe these problems? How do we persevere? Right? Challenges come.
That's life.
Exactly. Life happens.
It is. It's how you act, respond to it.
Exactly.
And because you are such a guru in research, I heard someone actually on BT just the other day say that the earlier in life that you learn how to overcome resistance to obstacles, the more resilient you become. Is that true?
I believe so. I think it can be learned very early on. And even this idea of learned optimism. Right?
Oh, I love that.
And the language that we use. So with children, if a child goes through something and is upset about it, what language are you using with that child? There's a difference between, oh, don't worry about it, versus you're going to be okay.
Oh, there is. That's so true.
You're going to be okay. And so at a young
you feel totally
age,
different just hearing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that we need to keep in mind is we're very protective of children. We don't want them to be stressed, and we want them to have all the friends in the world, and we want them to be protected, but they need to learn those coping skills. They need to learn the coping mechanisms to deal with stress, to deal with things like rejection, to deal with obstacles, because that's going to help them later in life. Right?
It's probably a good segue to say that resilience is kind of the new muscle that we're helping all ages learn how to develop and maintain as strong as you would any muscle, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can do one talk on this idea of resilience and psychological capital, and within 1 week, I can meet with professionals in healthcare. I can meet with wealth advisors across Canada. I can meet with graduate students. I can meet with parents of teenagers, and it's the same stuff.
Oh,
right? Because we're all looking at how do I build this? How do I overcome these challenges in a way that I can learn and find meaning in them?
Oh, wow. I love that. Across all ages, all occupations, all places in your life, you can afford to learn more about this. And the language is the same. It's just adapted differently to that group. Incredible. And it must be so much fun to be able to work with such a diverse audience.
I love it. And what comes out of the diverse audience is so fascinating to me. And so I build off of that, right?
Oh, cool.
And the examples and the stories. And you hear from people and you really realize we don't know what someone else is going through.
No,
right?
We don't. We only know what we're going through, and we tell ourselves stories that we know, but we really don't.
Yeah.
Well, here's something really exciting. Rumeet has offered to do a webinar for canfitpro members. And this webinar is coming up in just over a week. So Thursday, November the 28th. I can't believe I'm saying that date already.
I know.
So you've been so generous to offer a free webinar to all canfitpro members. And that webinar is around Rumeet's work and what she's been talking about here today. It's building psychological capital, training for resilience.
Yes.
So if you're a trainer and you work with clients, if you're an instructor and you're on stage being judged every day, and if you're living life to the fullest and you want to be the most resilient you can be, and you're just curious about what this new training muscle and opportunity is, I would strongly encourage you to put it in your calendar. Next Thursday at 12:30, that would be your lunch and learn with Dr. Rumeet Billan. We'll give you the link in the feed from this live so you can catch it there. But I also want to say that not only will you catch Rumeet next week as our special guest for this webinar, but Rumeet will be our featured guest speaker at the Women Who Influence 2020 event.
I am so excited, and we have a big surprise for everyone too. It's going to be amazing. So I encourage you to join the webinar. Thanks for that, Mo. Next week.
Well, thank you.
No, I'm so excited. We are actually going to be talking about those tools and strategies that we are speaking to today. And I'm so excited for Women Who Influence next year. Please join us. We have a lot in store for you, and thank you again.
Yeah, and that the details of Women Who Influence will be coming out shortly in the new year. It'll be Thursday, August the 13th. So put that on your calendar. You know, plan it as your gift to yourself this holiday season. Buy it for your favorite girlfriend to join you or girlfriends to join you. There'll be information about that. And this year's event being the 7th annual, seven in my life is always that year of change.
Yes.
So we're going to change up a little bit about our lineup so that we can feature Rumeet in a longer session, a full special segment. And as Rumeet indicated, there'll be something very exciting and special. It's a gift, in fact, not of just education, but truly a gift. And I won't tell you anything else, because if I start talking, I'll tell you more, and that's not what we want. I did want to finish off and ask something about your personal life. You have a young son.
I do.
So being that you're an educator, you know, often it's our best stories are learned at home. What has and he is, remind me his age?
He is almost 3.5.
I was going to say 4. So
Cute.
3.5. And you talk a lot about him in your workshop.
do.
I'm sure you'll refer to him because you've learned many lessons through your relationship and having a young child. What's one of the things you've learned from your son that has helped you in your work, sharing that gift of education around resilience?
Well, he tests my resilience every single day, is what I've learned. But it's the simple things. And just a very small example is when he was learning to walk, right? He fell down, got right back up. He fell down, got right back up. And I'm sure in his mind, he wasn't engaging in negative self-talk or anything of that sort. And it was, he just kept trying and trying. And this is what children do. And he didn't give up. And that, to me, just watching that process and the excitement of when he was able to walk was mind-blowing. And it's that idea of, you know, he didn't stop for a second to say, oh, I'm horrible at this. He just got right back up and tried again and tried again. And so I learned so much from it just by observing his behavior. And oftentimes when something happens to us, we hold on to it. Children, they let it go.
Oh.
They're on to the next thing. They are not fussed, and we can learn from that, right? And how sometimes we take things so personally. So it's been an absolute joy to watch him grow up. He's just a little man right now, and he's hilarious, and I love him. As you
Is he letting you sleep more at night?
Oh yes. So on Valentine's Day, he gave me the gift of being able to sleep throughout the night. Best gift, I can tell you, it was the best gift ever.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. It's been great.
And boys will challenge you, I can say that.
Yes.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So you got to catch this. If you have watched this live, please share it with a fellow friend. And if you're watching because you're a CanFitPro member, if there's somebody that you want to have join you on the webinar, please share the information as well. And we're very excited for next Thursday. I'm very excited for next August, but I'm not going to rush it unless it means the winter is going to leave us faster.
Yes.
Then I'm all for it. So signing off from Tuesday Live at Lunch with Mo and Rumeet. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.
Mo. Thank
you.
We're good. Are we still smiling?